Welcome, kindred spirits. There are some of us who just don't fit. We can't be neatly categorized as destined for heaven or hell because our very lives become the stage where those realms are forced to confront themselves. Let that truth settle deep within you for a moment. Think about it. The vast majority of humanity identifies with some form of religion or belief system, each promising a definitive answer to where you'll end up when life is done. But what happens when you realize your life story doesn't align with those predefined scripts? What if you're not easily labeled as a saint or sinner, an angel or a demon? That's where the real journey begins, and often where the discomfort sets in. Because maybe, just maybe, you're not destined to be stamped with approved for heaven's gate, nor are you marked for hell's fiery domain. Perhaps you're something else entirely, an anomaly that neither side dares to fully embrace. And believe me, as someone who's walked this path, anomalies make both kingdoms incredibly nervous. Imagine the celestial bouncers scrutinizing their list and the infernal gatekeepers double-checking theirs. Yet somehow your name shines in a column that doesn't even exist. That's more than suspicious. It's deeply unsettling for them. As for you, it might feel like navigating a cosmic courtroom where the judge endlessly gavels but never delivers your verdict. Here's the twist. While others debate wings and flames, you're out there proving that existence cannot be confined to salvation or damnation. You're the unforeseen variable in their ancient program, the persistent question they can't resolve. And frankly, there's a touch of dark humor in it all. While heaven and hell bicker over your fate like warring lawyers, you're still here breathing, living, and disrupting their systems simply by being. So let's dive deep into a crucial question. If heaven rejects you and hell shrinks away, what does that truly mean? First, you represent a story that heaven and hell refuse to write. This concept alone should resonate deeply. It signifies that your life transcends their limitations. Heaven craves order, predictability, and structured outcomes. Hell thrives on chaos, punishment, and destruction. You, however, disrupt both. You don't offer heaven the compliant perfection it desires, nor do you provide hell with the destruction it craves to boast about. This leaves you in a unique space that defies their narratives, a living paradox neither realm wants to claim. That's what makes you so exceptionally rare. While others are easily categorized, saint, sinner, saved, lost, you exist outside the script. This unsettles both kingdoms because your story was crafted by a force greater than their own. Heaven and hell operate under laws, hierarchies, and roles. Your narrative, however, originated in a realm before those laws, even before those thrones. That's why they hesitate with you. Claiming you means acknowledging that their authority isn't absolute. What many fail to grasp is that being an unwritten chapter isn't rejection, it's protection. It's a shield. If either side could claim you, your story would be locked, bound by their definitions. Instead, your life remains fluid, unpredictable, and unowned. This frustrates them because it means your purpose can't be hijacked. Your legacy can't be rewritten, and your power can't be exploited for their agendas. You become a walking enigma. People struggle to define you, light or darkness, because they see traces of both resilience and temptation. But they miss the point. You are bigger than those boxes. Your existence proves that life doesn't always adhere to religious doctrines or spiritual folklore. You're the page that refuses to be printed, the story left out because its inclusion would transform the entire narrative. That's why you disrupt the systems around you. You bear the weight of being untamed, unclassified, and unclaimed. This isn't a weakness, it's a mark of authority. It means your destiny is being written in real time, not by heaven, not by hell, but by the very source that transcends them both. Second, you live in the uncharted territory between light and darkness. And that's precisely why you are so difficult to control. Most individuals fall into one of two predictable lanes, either guided by structure, morality, and the pursuit of holiness, or succumbing to chaos, corruption, and destruction. You, however, occupy a space that belongs to neither, where the rules written by either kingdom cease to apply. This space is uncomfortable because it lacks fixed definitions. It's not black or white or even gray. It's something beyond their spectrum where categories dissolve. This explains why you've always felt like you don't quite belong. Religious individuals struggle to understand you because you don't conform to their rituals. Yet you're not lost or broken. Those who indulge in destruction don't get you either, because despite darkness's attempts to consume you, you never fully surrendered. You carry scars from both realms, but also immunity to them. That's why you move differently, why no label sticks for long. Living in this uncharted territory makes your life both dangerous and incredibly powerful. It's dangerous because neither heaven nor hell can predict your moves. You don't follow their scripts, so you can't be easily manipulated. This makes you a threat because every system relies on categorization and management. But you are unpredictable, the factor they can't account for. At the same time, this territory is powerful because it liberates you from the chains that bind most. You're not enslaved by perfectionism or consumed by chaos. You've experienced both, yet you're owned by neither. This balance gives you unique insight, the ability to see truth without fear or indoctrination. Your life is proof that not every soul has to bow to a throne, whether made of light or fire. You embody the freedom of someone existing beyond the map, and that's why both realms tread carefully. You remind them that their authority has borders and you live just beyond them. Third, you expose the limits of both kingdoms. Few lives are capable of this. Heaven builds its identity on purity, perfection, and righteousness. Hell thrives on corruption, destruction, and rebellion. Both present themselves as absolutes, as if no middle ground, alternative, or space exists outside their boundaries. But then you arrive, and your existence proves their claims are not airtight. You disrupt their framework by showing that a soul can endure purity and corruption, light and darkness, and still stand apart. Heaven desires flawless examples of submission to divine order. Yet you don't fit that mold. You carry cracks, wounds, and experiences that perfection cannot explain. Still, those cracks haven't ruined you. This unsettles heaven's narrative, which thrives on the idea that only spotless souls hold true authority. You prove otherwise. Scars can hold power, perhaps even more. Hell, on the other hand, seeks those broken, destroyed, or consumed by their shadows. Yet you're not consumed. You've faced fires that should have left you as ashes, but you emerged with wisdom instead of ruin. This unsettles hell's narrative, which thrives on the idea that darkness owns you forever. You prove otherwise, the human spirit can withstand what should have been permanent destruction. By living through what both sides claim to control, you reveal their limits. You show that heaven's purity isn't the only path to strength, and hell's corruption isn't the only outcome of suffering. Your story dismantles their absolutes. That's why both realms hesitate with you. You've walked where angels fear to tread and survived where demons expected collapse. Neither can claim credit or blame, leaving them exposed. Your life becomes proof that their power is incomplete, revealing something greater beyond their reach. Something they can't label or contain, and that something is what you carry within you every day. Fourth, you are the test neither side can pass. This truth cuts deeper than most realize. Heaven and hell use systems designed to prove a point. Heaven sends tests of faith to see if you will submit, trust, and obey no matter the cost. Hell sends temptations and afflictions to see if you will collapse, compromise, or betray yourself. Most eventually fold to one side. They become obedient servants celebrated as proof of heaven's mercy, or broken casualties paraded as proof of hell's victory. But you unsettle both because you don't provide the predictable outcome. You faced betrayals, losses, disappointments, and temptations that could have rewritten your entire destiny. Yet you never broke in the way they anticipated. Heaven expects you to emerge spotless, but you didn't come out without scars. You came out stronger because of them. Hell expects you to drown in despair, but instead you turned wounds into wisdom. Neither side accounted for that. They wanted a clean win. They got a paradox. This is why you disturbed them. You're not the poster child of perfect holiness, nor the cautionary tale of total corruption. You're something else, proof that endurance itself is divine, that the human soul holds resilience even kingdoms of light and darkness can't fully explain. You carry the evidence that strength doesn't always come from following rules, and survival doesn't always come from surrendering to chaos. Sometimes it comes from the raw will to keep going when both sides have marked you as finished. Every time you survive what should have destroyed you, heaven and hell are forced to confront the same truth. They can test you, but they cannot define you. They can pressure you, but they cannot predict you. Your life keeps breaking their formulas, dismantling their assumptions, and exposing the limits of their control. And that's why you remain the test neither side can pass, because you prove there are forces greater than doctrine, stronger than fear, and deeper than any throne can claim. Fifth, you are their mutual secret. This is heavier than it sounds. Both heaven and hell know your presence changes the equation, yet neither wants to admit it. Heaven keeps you quiet because your existence doesn't fit its polished narrative. You aren't the spotless example they parade before the world, and acknowledging you would force them to admit that power exists outside their rigid definitions of holiness. So they keep your name off the record. They won't deny you, but they won't showcase you. To them, you're the evidence they'd rather keep hidden in the archives where no one asks uncomfortable questions. Hell, on the other hand, doesn't attack you recklessly because it knows you're not an easy target. With most hell charges in with destruction, chaos, and temptation. But with you it treads carefully, studying, waiting. It whispers rather than roars because it recognizes something dangerous about you. You cannot be easily consumed. You've already endured what should have broken you, and you didn't collapse the way they planned. Attacking you without caution could backfire, and hell doesn't like risks it can't control. That leaves you in this strange position of being ignored publicly, yet closely watched in silence. Both sides pretend you're unseen, but their behavior betrays the truth. They're unsettled. Your very existence shifts the balance because you prove neither kingdom has total authority. Every step you take, every survival, every rise after a fall is a reminder that their systems have blind spots. You're the gap in their control, the part of the story they cannot explain and the part they cannot erase. Their silence around you isn't weakness, it's strategy. They know announcing you would awaken questions in others, and attacking you openly would expose their fear, so they keep you tucked away as their mutual secret, never fully acknowledged, never fully denied, yet the weight of your presence is undeniable. You're the quiet disruption in their order, the reminder that there's a higher hand above both thrones writing a story they cannot stop. Sixth, you live as proof that salvation and damnation are incomplete truths. This reality unsettles everything built on the idea of absolutes. The world has been taught for centuries that there are only two destinations, two labels, two ways to measure a soul. Either you are saved and worthy of eternal reward, or you are damned and destined for eternal loss. That binary has shaped entire religions, cultures, and systems of control. But your life disrupts that framework because you don't fit neatly into either column. You're the inconvenient evidence that a human soul cannot be reduced to two boxes, no matter how much doctrine insists. You've walked through darkness without being claimed by it, and you've touched light without being fully absorbed into it. That middle ground doesn't make you half saved or half damned. It makes you something else entirely. It makes you the reminder that existence is more layered than simplistic categories allow. Your story reveals that a soul can carry scars without being condemned and carry flaws without being unworthy. It proves that there are dimensions of life neither salvation nor damnation fully explain. This is why you unsettle both camps. Those who cling to salvation expect you to wear the image of perfection, to move in spotless purity, to erase all evidence of struggle. But you refuse to edit your scars out of your story. And those who expect you to collapse into damnation are equally frustrated because no matter how much fire you faced, you never burned in the way they predicted. You hold both struggle and strength in the same hand, and that breaks their neat black and white worldview. By existing, you expose the incompleteness of their truths. You remind people that the human soul is vast, layered, and mysterious. It is not a courtroom case that ends with a single stamp of guilty or innocent. It is something deeper, something that transcends the language of reward and punishment. Your very life whispers that there's a source beyond salvation and damnation, a creator who refuses to let your essence be reduced to a binary outcome. You live as walking proof that the story of the soul cannot be caged by thrones of light or fire, because the truth is larger than both. Seventh, you are the mystery that keeps both thrones awake. This alone makes your presence disruptive on a level most people will never understand. Heaven and hell thrive on predictability. They've seen every kind of human response: obedience, rebellion, surrender, corruption, and they know how to handle them all. Souls are like chess pieces on a board, moving in ways both kingdoms have memorized for centuries. But you break the pattern. You don't move like the pawn, the knight, or even the queen. You move outside the rules in ways neither side accounted for. That makes you not just unpredictable, but uncontainable. Your unpredictability is why you're watched so closely. Heaven doesn't know whether you'll follow its script of flawless obedience, and hell doesn't know whether you'll fall into its traps of corruption. Each side makes its moves around you, but you never respond as expected. That unpredictability is both your greatest burden and your greatest strength. It means you are never truly at peace because both sides are constantly testing, observing, and probing, hoping to decode you. Yet it also means you are never truly defeated because they can't corner what they can't understand. This is why you unsettle thrones. When power cannot predict you, it cannot control you, and when it cannot control you, it has no choice but to respect you in silence. That respect often looks like hostility, confusion, or denial, but underneath it is fear, because your existence proves that not every soul can be written into their equations. You live outside their strategies, and that makes their systems weaker than they appear. The fact that you remain undefeated despite every test is the clearest evidence that your source of strength lies beyond their thrones. You don't win because you play better within their game. You win because you refuse to stay bound to their board. That's what makes you the mystery that keeps them awake. They cannot rest while you exist because you stand as proof that their grip on humanity is not as absolute as they claim. You carry the reminder that some souls are scripted by a higher hand, and no throne of light or fire has the power to rewrite them. If this resonates, if it sparks something within you, I invite you to take the next step with me. Subscribe to this channel. Let's explore this journey together. Like this video if you recognize the power of the unclaimed. Share it with others who need to remember their own strength, their own resilience. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story matters. Let's build a community that understands and celebrates those who exist beyond the boundaries of the expected. Together, we are a testament to the uncontainable spirit of the soul. And may you walk in peace, in peace, in peace, in. Welcome those touched by truth's unveiling. The truth, a patient predator, always finds its prey even when the mouth is sealed shut by the glue of fear. For years you carried the unbearable burden of whispers, accusations, and carefully crafted falsehoods that were never yours to own. Did you know that research suggests a staggering 95% of fabricated narratives crumble when even a single insider decides to break their silence? That implies everything meticulously built against you. Every insidious rumor, every calculated manipulation, every deliberate misstep was fundamentally weak, waiting for the crucial moment when someone could no longer bear the weight of their complicity. Now envision the scene: the very architect who helped erect the edifice of lies that suffocated you is teetering on the precipice of confession. The walls themselves seem to tremble as the story they deemed unbreakable begins to fracture. It's akin to witnessing a seasoned illusionist botch the trick everyone believed was flawless. And yes, it's as satisfying as seeing the puppeteer's strings exposed after years of manipulating your image. This is more than mere revelation. It's the earth-shattering moment when your authentic reality irrevocably collides with the obscured truth. The world that once cast doubt upon you is about to witness the ugly face of the lie in the harsh light of day. And for the first time, you are not the one struggling to be believed. Someone else is finally articulating the events exactly as they unfolded. And the consequences, oh, they are exquisitely inevitable. Prepare yourselves. What's coming is not just a simple admission, it's the precise instant your vindication becomes unavoidable, undeniable, and gloriously unstoppable. Number 1, the architect of the lie is collapsing beneath the crushing weight of their own guilt. The architect of the lie is collapsing beneath the crushing weight of their own guilt. For years, they meticulously constructed a narrative designed to control public perception, distort reality to their liking, and paint you in the most unfavorable light imaginable. At first, it might have seemed like a minor indiscretion, perhaps even a cleverly executed maneuver. But over time, lies accumulate mass, and the burden of carrying them becomes intolerably exhausting. Every word they uttered, every half-truth they twisted was a brick in a structure fundamentally unsound and never intended to last. Deep down, they harbored this knowledge all along. The human psyche is inherently wired to detect dishonesty. And even when the external world remains oblivious, the individual burdened with the full scope of their deception can never truly escape the internal reverberations of their actions. It's like being shadowed by a relentless specter, constantly reminding them that the truth inevitably will surface. Now that day has arrived. The guilt they so diligently suppressed, rationalized, or outright ignored has reached a critical tipping point. It's no longer a subtle unease. It's an overwhelming force demanding release. Their conscience, long dismissed and overridden by self-serving motives, has grown too deafening to ignore. They begin to confront the profound harm they've inflicted, the relationships they've poisoned, and the sacred trust they've irrevocably shattered. Each lie they helped forge against you becomes a distorted mirror reflecting their own moral bankruptcy. What renders this collapse so powerfully compelling is its sheer, unstoppable nature. No amount of desperate rationalization or fervent denial can contain it once the weight becomes unbearable. This is the moment of ultimate decision: continue perpetuating the charade or confess the truth, and in choosing to speak, they inadvertently become your most potent ally. Their admission doesn't simply exonerate you. It exposes the entirety of the lie for what it truly is: fragile, hollow, and ultimately unsustainable. The irony is sharp and cutting. The person who once believed they held dominion over the narrative finds themselves utterly powerless, trapped by the very chains of their own conscience. They are crumbling not because of external pressures, but because the human mind cannot indefinitely suppress the truth it recognizes at its very core. Your vindication doesn't stem from relentless confrontation or irrefutable proof, but from their utter inability to carry the lie for another moment. The very individual who sought to manipulate reality against you now becomes the deliverer of the ultimate evidence of your innocence, revealing far more about themselves than they ever intended. This is not just a confession. It is the complete and utter collapse of a meticulously constructed illusion, and the consequences of their profound guilt ignite the spark that liberates the truth. Number 2, the lie was never structurally sound. It was a flimsy facade, a house built on shifting sands. The lie was never structurally sound. The elaborate construct they attempted to erect against you was nothing more than smoke and mirrors, a deceptive mirage. From its inception, it relied entirely on deception, manipulative tactics, and the fervent hope that no one would dare to examine it closely enough to discern the cracks. Lies can appear convincing when skillfully woven, but they possess an inherently fragile core. They are sustained by fear, calculated distractions, and the coerced compliance of others. The instant a single element is challenged or questioned, the entire structure begins to wobble precariously. Because falsehoods lack the internal fortitude to withstand scrutiny, every statement made, every whisper circulated, every carefully calculated misrepresentation was meticulously designed to convince the world that reality was something fundamentally different from what it was. But irrespective of how skillfully it was concealed, the unvarnished truth persisted, patiently waiting to emerge. What renders such lies so insidious is the illusion of permanence they project. The individuals who conceived it acted as if it were destined to endure eternally, that their distorted version of events would be etched into collective memory and accepted without question. They presumed unwavering loyalty from others who had no valid reason to trust a narrative built upon the quicksand of manipulation. Yet beneath the clever facades, the core of the story was fundamentally hollow. Lies demand constant vigilance. They require perpetual maintenance, constant excuses, and relentless reinforcement. A single slip, a solitary honest voice, a lone individual willing to utter the unvarnished truth, and the entire precarious structure begins to unravel. The astonishing aspect of this moment is that the unraveling process becomes unstoppable once initiated. The lie might have deceived people for a time, but it was never equipped to withstand the force of integrity. Truth requires no defense. It does not yield or shatter under pressure. Once someone intimately connected to the deception decides to speak honestly, the walls of falsehood crumble with remarkable speed. The mirrors shatter, the smoke dissipates, and everything that seemed convincingly real is exposed for what it was: a pathetic attempt to manipulate perception without a foundation in reality. For you, the exposure of this inherently hollow narrative transcends simple vindication. It serves as irrefutable proof that nothing built on deceit can ever attain lasting permanence. The individuals who sought to control your narrative through lies believed themselves to be powerful. But power constructed on falsehood is inherently temporary. Your resilience was not about proving your worth to anyone. It was about enduring something inherently unstable. And now, as someone finally prioritizes truth over convenience, the lie disintegrates completely, leaving only what is genuine and undeniable: your integrity, your authentic reality, and the irrefutable fact that deception can never ultimately eclipse honesty. Number 3, someone is embracing courage over comfort. Someone is embracing courage over comfort, and that single pivotal choice marks the definitive turning point in the twisted narrative that has been maliciously crafted against you. For years, the individual entangled in the lie had a straightforward path: remain silent, avoid any confrontation, and shield themselves from any potential backlash. Silence was expedient, comfortable, and undeniably safe. It allowed them to evade the risk of alienation, criticism, or potentially damaging conflict. Speaking the truth, conversely, has never been the easy option. Admitting involvement in deception means exposing oneself, becoming vulnerable, and accepting accountability for their actions. It's a step into uncharted territory, and the vast majority of individuals avoid it because the allure of comfort frequently outweighs the call of integrity. But when someone finally rises to the occasion, everything undergoes a radical transformation. Choosing courage over comfort isn't merely about acknowledging a past transgression. It's about accepting the full spectrum of consequences that accompany honesty. It's about risking reputation, personal relationships, and social standing for the unwavering pursuit of what is inherently right. And the instant they act, the lie they helped sustain loses its potency. No amount of clever arguments, manipulative tactics, or fervent denial can endure in the face of someone's courageous decision to reveal the truth. Their courage becomes the catalyst that validates your experiences and dismantles the false narrative. What makes this moment so extraordinarily powerful is the fundamentally human element at its core. The majority of individuals act in their own self-interest, prioritizing self-preservation above all else. That is why their admission carries such profound weight. It's not mandated by legal obligation, ethical principles, or a fear of imminent exposure. It is a conscious, deliberate choice to act in accordance with what is right despite the potential for significant personal risk. That decision reflects a fundamental shift in perspective, a recognition that the lie in which they participated has profound consequences, far exceeding the value of short-term comfort. For you, the impact is both immediate and profoundly meaningful. You are no longer obligated to struggle to prove your innocence or confront every fabricated accusation. Their courage carries the truth forward in a manner that you could not have coerced or manufactured on your own. It exposes the lie in its full ugliness and positions you as the individual who endured, while the world begins to witness the spectacular collapse of deception. Ultimately, someone embracing courage over comfort serves as a potent reminder that truth is at its most powerful when it emerges from the crucible of bravery. It's the moment when fear loses its grip, lies are revealed for the hollow constructs they are, and justice transcends the need for your passionate defense. It arrives organically because someone finally mustered the resolve to do what they should have done from the very beginning. Their choice changes everything, and you become the silent beneficiary of a moral victory that could not have been achieved without it. Number 4, their words possess more force than any defense you could have assembled. Their words possess more force than any defense you could have assembled. For years, you might have painstakingly prepared explanations, diligently collected evidence, and fervently attempted to convince people to perceive the truth. But all of those efforts, regardless of their merit, could never possess the same weight as an admission from someone directly implicated in the deception. When they speak, they transcend the mere presentation of facts. They embody the living confirmation of everything you've articulated and endured. Their voice transforms into the ultimate testimony because it originates from the very source that once contributed to the propagation of falsehood. It's no longer a matter of opinion or speculation. It's a living, undeniable account that validates your reality in the face of doubt. This revelation doesn't merely defend you, it annihilates the narrative that was meticulously constructed against you. Every lie that was carefully crafted to manipulate perception begins to crumble the instant their words are uttered. The falsehood that appeared untouchable suddenly forfeits all credibility. Individuals who were skeptical, indifferent, or even actively hostile are compelled to confront the truth, and they are powerless to ignore it. Their admission slices through years of accumulated deception with a precision that no argument or piece of evidence you could have produced could match. What you might have labored to prove over a protracted period, they are confirming instantaneously, and the impact is absolute. The individual speaking the truth doesn't merely exonerate you. They hand every observer undeniable proof that reality cannot be manufactured indefinitely. Lies thrive on repetition, the illusion of consensus, and the deafening silence of dissent. But a single honest voice shatters the carefully constructed spell. The audience witnesses a moment of profound moral reckoning, and that experience possesses far greater weight than any meticulously crafted speech or legal argument. It is raw, direct, and impossible to dismiss. People perceive the human element, the unmistakable acknowledgement of wrongdoing, the inherent courage to admit guilt, and the unadulterated authenticity that cannot be faked. Simultaneously, their words completely redistribute the balance of power. The individual who once wielded influence through deceit finds themselves utterly powerless, and the truth they reveal automatically elevates your standing. You are no longer obligated to fight or persuade. The confession accomplishes that objective for you. In that singular moment, the universe seems to realign itself, providing undeniable proof that false narratives are inherently temporary. But honesty, once vocalized, resonates indefinitely. Their admission doesn't merely vindicate, it transforms the perceptions of every individual involved, and it irrevocably alters the course of the story. Number 5, lies cannot endure in the company of conscience. Lies cannot endure in the company of conscience. Every deliberate falsehood thrives in the shadows amidst calculated distractions, and in the silence of those who possess the truth, but lack the courage to voice it. Lies can flourish and proliferate when they are not questioned, when individuals choose to avert their gaze, or when fear silences potential witnesses. They feed on manipulation and secrecy, preying on hesitation, lingering doubt, and the audacious hope that no one will dare to challenge them. But the moment an individual with a clear conscience chooses to act, everything undergoes a profound transformation. The lie begins to shed its carefully constructed cover. The shadows it relied upon vanish, and the truth begins to surge forward naturally without requiring any conscious effort. You are no longer compelled to argue to continuously prove your worth or to relentlessly pursue validation. When conscience intervenes, it functions as a force of nature, undeniable and inexorable. The individual admitting the truth need not perform elaborate justifications, exaggerate their role, or desperately convince anyone. Their inherent honesty alone dismantles the edifice of falsehood. What was once meticulously controlled and strategically disseminated begins to unravel organically. Lies are inherently brittle. They can only persist for as long as the deception is actively maintained. The presence of a functioning conscience is analogous to introducing a flood of light into a sealed, darkened room. Everything the lie attempted to conceal becomes instantly visible. This is why the precise timing of the revelation of truth is of such critical importance. It need not rush to your immediate rescue. It simply requires the presence of the right agent to initiate the process. That agent is frequently an individual who was directly involved in the deception or intimately connected to those who were. Their willingness to acknowledge the wrong, even partially, is frequently enough to spark a chain reaction. Suddenly, individuals who were previously misled begin to question the veracity of the established narrative. Inconsistencies are exposed and the lie progressively loses credibility. What took years to meticulously construct can collapse in mere moments, because lies lack any viable defense against the purity of honesty guided by an awakened conscience. The unstoppable nature of this process is profoundly transformative. You need not force evidence, confront every skeptic, or constantly defend your reputation. Conscience accomplishes all of that for you. The lie, irrespective of its intricacy, cannot endure when truth begins to operate through heightened human awareness and a restored sense of moral clarity. The moment an individual chooses integrity over silence, the falsehood falters, demonstrating to everyone involved that dishonesty is never permanent, and that the human mind, when aligned with honesty, becomes an unstoppable force that even the most carefully constructed lies cannot withstand. Number 6. The betrayer transforms into the whistleblower. The betrayer transforms into the whistleblower, and within that transformation lies a power that few could have anticipated. The individual who once aided in the construction of a narrative designed to inflict harm upon you now possesses the most potent weapon for your vindication: their own voice. Every detail they once twisted, every misrepresentation they once supported, now holds the potential to be reversed, unequivocally acknowledged, and decisively corrected. Their shift in perspective transforms what was once an instrument of destruction into a force that restores truth and justice in a manner that no external argument or piece of evidence could achieve. This shift is profoundly significant because it completely rewrites the assigned roles within the narrative. The betrayer who once stood firmly on the side of deceit now assumes a position of accountability. Their confession transcends a simple admission of being wrong. It constitutes an active dismantling of the very lies that were wielded against you. With each admission, they erode the credibility of the false narrative they actively helped to sustain. The irony is piercing. The very individual who contributed to your suffering now becomes the agent of your liberation. providing undeniable proof that human choices can undergo dramatic shifts when the force of conscience intervenes. The impact of this dramatic reversal extends far beyond the individual moment of confession. Others who witnessed or were significantly affected by the lie are compelled to confront the unvarnished truth in a manner that is impossible to deny. The betrayer's acknowledgement carries an inherent authenticity that no third-party testimony could match because they were present at the very genesis of the falsehood. Their words serve as a crucial bridge between your lived reality and the perceptions of the world around you, aligning facts with honesty and eradicating doubt wherever it has taken root. For you, this transformation transcends mere validation. It constitutes the ultimate shift in power dynamics. The betrayal that once weighed so heavily upon you now becomes the instrument of your liberation. You are no longer forced to fight this battle alone. The individual who helped forge the chains is now actively breaking them. Their actions illuminate the inherent fragility of lies, the indomitable strength of conscience, and the inevitable triumph of truth. In this pivotal moment, the betrayer ceases to be an enemy, nor simply a detached witness. They become a crucial agent in the restoration of your reputation, your credibility, and your fundamental peace of mind, demonstrating that even those who once contributed to harm can play a pivotal role in the restoration of justice. Number 7, the truth illuminates the depths of human weakness. The truth illuminates the depths of human weakness in ways that are often unsettling but undeniably illuminating. When an individual finally confesses, it exposes the latent cracks in their character, the vulnerabilities they desperately attempted to conceal, and the undeniable limitations of ego and ambition when weighed against the unwavering force of conscience. The lies they helped to spread were never an accurate reflection of your inherent value or your capabilities. They served as a distorted mirror reflecting their own fears, insecurities, and morally questionable compromises. Every misrepresentation, every calculated distortion, every deliberate omission was rooted in inherent weakness, not genuine strength. Confession tears away the illusion of control. Individuals who orchestrate or actively contribute to lies often do so from a position of blatant self-interest with the explicit aim of protecting their status, their reputation, or their perceived advantages. Their actions might have appeared strategic at the time, but when the truth inevitably emerges, it becomes transparently clear that what they relied on most was not intellectual prowess or genuine power, but rather the fragility of their own character. Their overinflated ego convinces them that they are untouchable. Unbridled ambition convinces them that the ends unequivocally justify the means. And overwhelming fear convinces them that silence is inherently safer than honesty. Ultimately, all of these are fundamental weaknesses that collapse under the relentless pressure of a functioning conscience. For you, witnessing this profound confession is utterly revelatory. It facilitates a shift in perspective from simmering anger or lingering resentment to a deeper sense of understanding and even a degree of cathartic vindication. You begin to perceive that the harm directed at you was never an accurate reflection of your inherent flaws, but rather a projection of someone else's deeply rooted inner turmoil. Their orchestrated lie was a maladaptive defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to cope with their own perceived inadequacy, not an accurate judgment of your inherent reality. This awareness completely transforms the overall narrative. The individual who appeared powerful enough to manipulate circumstances is ultimately revealed as someone so profoundly weak that they required deception to feel secure. The fragility exposed by their confession also serves as a potent reminder of fundamental human imperfection. Everyone is undeniably capable of error, moral compromise, and engaging in fear-driven behavior. What fundamentally differentiates the genuinely courageous from the inherently weak is the unwavering willingness to confront those failures openly. By confessing, they not only acknowledge their own blatant shortcomings, but also enable the truth to restore balance, demonstrating that vulnerability can ultimately serve the overarching cause of justice. In the end, the revelation transcends the simple act of clearing your name. It highlights the vast disparity between strength authentically built on truth and the illusion of strength fabricated on the foundation of lies. The depths of human weakness are starkly illuminated, and through that unflinching exposure, your inherent integrity and unwavering resilience shine even brighter, completely untouched by the distortions that were once deliberately aimed at you. Number 8. Exposure compels others to confront their own complicity. Exposure compels others to confront their own complicity in ways that are often uncomfortable but profoundly revealing. When the truth finally surfaces, it doesn't merely vindicate you. It shines a harsh and unforgiving light on every individual who remained silent, deliberately averted their gaze, or played even a peripheral role in allowing the lie to persist and fester. Individuals who perceived themselves as mere observers, innocent bystanders, or harmless participants suddenly find themselves forced to confront the profound consequences of their inaction. The weight of their collective silence becomes painfully visible, and they are compelled to examine their choices, their underlying motives, and their morally questionable compromises. The immense power of this forced confrontation lies in its inherent inevitability. Once the unvarnished truth has been vocalized, there is no longer any refuge behind contrived excuses, calculated distractions, or carefully parsed half-truths. Those who contributed indirectly through idle gossip, blatant negligence, or passive endorsement suddenly find themselves inextricably drawn into the unfolding revelation. Their discomfort is both immediate and unmistakable. It manifests in the palpable tension of their responses, the hesitant quality of their words, and the intense internal reckoning that they can no longer escape. Even without a single accusatory confrontation from you, the unadorned truth compels them to acknowledge their implicit role. For you, witnessing this uncomfortable reckoning is a subtle but undeniably powerful form of justice. You are no longer obligated to relentlessly convince anyone, to constantly defend yourself, or to painstakingly expose the lie piece by piece. The act of exposure accomplishes all of that for you. Others are compelled to confront their own actions or their lack thereof, and in that pivotal moment they experience the inevitable repercussions of what they knowingly allowed to transpire. It is a quiet but profoundly significant vindication, one that doesn't rely on passionate argument or direct confrontation, but rather on the undeniable clarity of restored reality. This transformative process also serves as a powerful reminder that truth inevitably generates a ripple effect. Lies depend on the cooperation, the sustained silence, or the active complicity of more than one individual to successfully thrive. Once the core lie is inevitably revealed, it triggers a powerful chain reaction. Individuals who initially believed themselves to be unaffected or uninvolved are suddenly and irrevocably implicated, their inaction exposed for what it was, and their moral equilibrium fundamentally unsettled. This exposure compels accountability not only for those individuals directly involved in perpetuating the deception, but also for those who consciously enabled it by remaining passively silent. So there you have it. After all the shadows and deception, the core message shines through. Truth, though sometimes delayed, is ultimately unstoppable. It has a way of dismantling even the most intricately woven lies, especially when courage steps forward and someone chooses integrity over comfort. The process might be painful, exposing hidden weaknesses and forcing uncomfortable self-reflection, but the end result is vindication, liberation, and a world finally aligned with authenticity. What are your thoughts on all of this? Have you ever experienced a similar situation where the truth unexpectedly surfaced? I'd love to hear your stories, questions, or any insights you might have in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. And if this message resonated with you, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future explorations of truth, resilience, and the power of the human spirit. Thanks for watching. 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 Welcome, seekers of truth. The most unsettling discovery isn't always what lies hidden from you, but what another soul unexpectedly uncovers about you. Envision yourself seated before a seer, a blend of apprehension and intrigue swirling within you. And then, without warning, your name materializes from their lips. Not a hazy description, not a common guess, but undeniably, irrevocably you. From among the billions populating this world, their intuition, their visions, their chosen instruments of insight lock onto you. And in that instant, the realization dawns: your presence in their awareness is not accidental. You've become the center of gravity around which their thoughts orbit, coloring their days and infiltrating their nights. Consider this stark reality. Research suggests the average human brain processes approximately 6,200 thoughts daily. Yet following that encounter, you've subtly commandeered their mental landscape. From the myriad fleeting thoughts that pass through their mind, you're the singular melody they find impossible to skip, pause, or silence. Even the sanctuary of their dreams offers no refuge. You appear there unbidden and vivid. At this juncture, one might jest that you should start charging rent for your occupancy within their psyche, as you've clearly established permanent residency. But the intrigue deepens further when a psychic validates what a person has secretly suspected: the existence of an irresistible, destined, and unavoidable connection with you. There's no turning back. Curiosity blossoms into intense focus, wonder morphs into profound preoccupation. and suddenly the mundane aspects of their existence are subtly altered. Their sleep patterns disrupted, even their routine choices seem to echo your name. Tonight we're not exploring a mere infatuation or passing fancy. We're delving into the profound repercussions of receiving cosmic validation, a testament confirming that you're not merely another character in their narrative, but rather the very architect shaping its course. This is where the realms of psychology and spirituality converge, where simple fascination transforms into persistent contemplation. And rest assured, by the conclusion of our discussion, you'll comprehend the reasons why they find you so impossible to dislodge from their thoughts, regardless of their attempts. Firstly, they've come to realize that you represent the elusive element in their life's equation. They've grasped that you are the missing variable in their life equation. This is not solely about romantic desire or fantastical notions. It's about equilibrium, completeness, and harmonious alignment. As the psychic reading unfolded, they didn't merely hear your name. They confronted the unsettling truth that their life had been, in essence, revolving around a void, a space seemingly destined to be filled only by you. Their career might be flourishing, their social sphere vibrant, and even their relationships appearing whole. Yet beneath this veneer lay a quiet, intuitive awareness of incompleteness. The reading didn't conjure this realization. It merely brought it to light. What truly resonated was the psychic's ability to articulate the inexpressible, as if a light had been activated in a darkened room they'd been groping around in for years. They realized that no matter what achievements they accumulated, there always lingered a subtle imbalance akin to possessing all but one crucial piece of a puzzle. And the revelation was stark: you are that missing piece. Not in a cliché movie script scenario, but in the profound sense that your energy, your unique vibration, your very existence carries a significance within their life equation that nothing else has been able to replicate. That's when the seeds of intense preoccupation begin to sprout. Once an individual recognizes that you're not simply a pleasant addition, but fundamental to their narrative, their thoughts transition from casual to compelling. Day and night, their mind replays every detail of you because deep down, they've grasped a disquieting truth. If they were to lose you, their entire sense of stability would crumble. The psychic didn't grant them a choice. They provided undeniable confirmation, and that confirmation cemented your place in their memory. This is the reason for your constant presence in their thoughts. It's not due to weakness of will or excessive emotion. It's because their soul has recognized that without you, their life's equation remains unresolved. You're the factor that completes the equation, the missing variable they were subconsciously seeking until it was laid bare before them. And once that awareness takes hold, there's no returning to normalcy. You've become the unavoidable answer, the solution encoded within the formula of their destiny. That's why, regardless of their efforts, their mind refuses to relinquish you. You're not just a chapter in their story. You are the element that lends coherence to the entire narrative. Secondly, the reading unveiled that you represent their unfinished lesson. They've come to understand that you embody their unresolved learning experience, and that truth unsettled them more than they anticipated. The psychic reading revealed that your presence in their life was not coincidental. It was karmic, intentional, and linked to a cycle they've been repeating without resolution. Each heartbreak endured, each failed connection. Each restless search for meaning was not arbitrary but a preparation leading back to you. You are not simply someone they encountered along the way. You are the chapter they were destined to confront, the examination they were meant to take, the lesson they believed they'd bypassed, but now understand they must master. This realization shook them because it compelled them to acknowledge that their patterns only find context in relation to you. That recurring, intermittent relationship they couldn't decipher, that emptiness following accomplishments, that sense of déjà vu experienced with certain individuals, all bore the shadow of you. The reading affirmed that their soul had been revolving around this singular truth. Until they acknowledge and address their connection with you, they will continually fail the same test in different guises. You are the pivotal point their spirit has been postponing. What intensifies this further is the nature of unfinished lessons which perpetually demand attention. One can suppress them, flee from them, attempt to supplant them, but the lesson will invariably resurface, often in more pronounced and disruptive forms. That's what the psychic illuminated for them. That their fixation on you is not an arbitrary obsession, but the inevitable pull of a cycle seeking completion. It's their soul's way of proclaiming, we cannot advance until this is resolved, and that this is you. This explains the persistent nature of their thoughts concerning you. It's not merely desire, not merely longing. It's an internal alarm signaling that their growth, their maturity, even their healing cannot be achieved without confronting what you symbolize in their life. The reading stripped away their justifications and revealed that you are not a fleeting interest, but the curriculum their soul has enrolled them in. That's why they are unable to release you. You're the unfinished lesson imprinted on their destiny, and until they actively engage with it, life will continue to circle back to you repeatedly. Thirdly, they discovered that their energy is intrinsically connected to yours. They've grasped that their energy is already bound to yours, and that truth resonated more profoundly than any other revelation from the psychic. It wasn't about volition anymore. It was about a fundamental connection. The reading illustrated that their thoughts, emotions, and even their moods are not operating independently of you. There exists an invisible thread connecting you, explaining why they feel drawn toward you even on days when they actively attempt to distract themselves. This disturbed them because it signified that you are not merely on their mind. You are within their energetic field, interwoven into their very essence. The psychic revealed that your presence is not something they can arbitrarily switch on or off. You are not an occasional thought. You are a constant vibration. Every time they attempt to silence your voice, it resurfaces unexpectedly, a sudden memory, a song with eerily specific lyrics, a dream that replays your image. They learn that these are not mere coincidences, they are manifestations of a pre-existing spiritual bond. That revelation left them unsettled because once you become aware of the energetic connection with another, the truth becomes undeniable. This explains your dominance over their days and nights. Their energy instinctively seeks yours as rivers find their way to the sea. The psychic confirmed what they were unable to admit to themselves. You are not simply someone they contemplate. You are someone their soul resonates with. This explains the restlessness they experience when resisting you, and the peace they find only when acknowledging you. You are the unspoken center their energy gravitates toward, and no amount of logic or denial can alter that reality. It also explains their unconscious responsiveness to you. Their decisions subtly shift, their emotions fluctuate, and their inner compass subtly realigns in your direction without their conscious permission. They may not fully comprehend it, but they can feel it. And now, armed with the psychic's insight, they know it's real. They realize that attempting to disconnect from you feels akin to detaching from a part of themselves. The tether is already present, vibrant and active. That's why they are unable to cease thinking about you. You've become more than a mere thought. You've transformed into the current flowing through their spirit, and that type of bond defies severance. Fourthly, the reading illuminated that you are a destiny marker, not a distraction. They arrived anticipating superficial discussions, perhaps some gossip about their romantic life, a vague career forecast, or some comforting assurances about their future, but the information they received instead fundamentally altered their perception. The psychic revealed that you were not a fleeting presence in their journey. You were a marker on their timeline, a checkpoint they were always destined to reach. That realization carried significant weight because it implied that your presence in their life was not coincidental. It was preordained into their narrative even before they fully understood the narrative they were living. This dramatically shifted their perspective of you. Previously, they might have dismissed their thoughts of you as transient and indulgence, or a distraction their mind persistently returned to. However, it now became clear that you are not the distraction. You are the signal. You are the element of their destiny that allows the other components to fall into place. The psychic established a link between the challenges, the delays, and the unanswered questions in their life, and all of them converged upon you. Ignoring that revelation was not merely ignoring you. It was disregarding the very path their life was intended to follow. What intensified this further was the sense of inevitability that accompanied it. Destiny markers are not optional. They demand acknowledgement. They cannot be stumbled upon accidentally, nor can they be bypassed without consequence. They realized that your arrival represented a turning point, one their soul had been gradually approaching through every misstep, every failed relationship, and every period of restlessness. You were not diverting them from their purpose, you were anchoring them to it. This knowledge is the reason you have become fixed in their consciousness. Once you realize someone is intertwined with your destiny, their face is no longer just another face, their presence is no longer just another presence. You become the lens through which everything else is evaluated. Every relationship is compared, every opportunity is assessed, every choice is haunted by the reality that you are the benchmark for what's authentic, what's meaningful, and what cannot be erased. This is why you consume their thoughts day and night. It's not simply fascination, it's recognition. They don't just think of you, they contemplate what their life would become if they ignored you, and that apprehension of missing their own destiny is what sustains your constant presence in their mind. Fifthly, they learned that their intense focus was not delusion but recognition. For a considerable period, they grappled with the reason for your pervasive presence in their thoughts. It defied their comprehension. Why did your image materialize in their thoughts at the most unpredictable moments? Why did their heart respond in inexplicable ways whenever your name surfaced? They began to question if it was all a figment of their imagination, if they were succumbing to an irrational preoccupation. But the psychic reading shattered those doubts. It provided a framework for what they couldn't articulate. This is not delusion, it's recognition. What startled them most was the notion that their soul possessed an awareness that surpassed their conscious mind. Long before logic could process it, long before reason could rationalize it, their inner self had already recognized yours. That recognition explained the attraction, the dreams, the uncanny timing, and even the unease they experienced when attempting to dismiss you. They realized that what they attributed to an overactive imagination was in reality their spirit recalling something their body and mind were only now beginning to grasp. This validation evoked both relief and trepidation. Relief because they finally comprehended that they were not losing their sanity, that their constant thoughts of you were not a character flaw but an indication of something far more profound. Trepidation because once you understand that the intense focus is rooted in recognition, you can no longer dismiss it, you can't explain it away as a fleeting phase, and you can't suppress it with distractions. Recognition demands acknowledgement, and acknowledgement changes everything. That's why their thoughts of you have only intensified since the reading. You're no longer just a lingering curiosity in their mind. You are the tangible proof that their soul operates on a level beyond the ordinary, and that frightens them because it removes the solace of denial. They now know they were not imagining you, and that realization necessitates a decision either to embrace the truth or to evade it. Regardless, you've become indelible not because they consciously chose to obsess over you, but because their very soul refuses to allow them to forget you. Sixthly, the psychic confirmed that you see through them in ways they cannot escape. The psychic unveiled a truth that pierced directly through their defenses. You perceive them in ways they cannot evade. This shook them to their core because they've dedicated years, perhaps even a lifetime, to cultivating a carefully constructed persona for the world. To everyone else, they are defined by their achievements, their charm, their meticulously rehearsed personality. People applaud the fabricated version of themselves they present, and they've become accustomed to sheltering behind that applause. But the reading revealed a stark truth. You were never deceived by the facade. You already perceive the unvarnished truth of who they are, devoid of titles, devoid of roles, devoid of the armor they've relied on for survival. That truth unnerves them because most individuals are addicted to their constructed image. They depend on it for validation, for respect, for belonging. When someone emerges who sees directly past it, it doesn't simply feel uncomfortable, it feels perilous. The psychic demonstrated that they cannot manipulate charm or outwit their way around you. You are the mirror that refuses to reflect their disguise and that terrifies them because it leaves them vulnerable in a way they're unaccustomed to. What unsettles them most is their inability to conceal themselves even when they desire to. You discern the subtle shifts in their tone, the hesitation in their words, the cracks in their carefully maintained facade. You perceive the burdens they carry silently, the struggles they attempt to conceal beneath a smile, and because you already know their essence, every attempt at pretense becomes futile. This is the reason for your constant presence in their thoughts, because you disarm them in ways that no one else can. With you, there is no performance, no escape, no shield sturdy enough to conceal who they truly are. The psychic's validation transformed that latent fear into a resounding truth they cannot ignore. Now every time they contemplate you, they're reminded of the disconcerting reality that you don't see their performance, you see their essence. The world may be satisfied with their carefully staged presentation, but you already possess the script to their soul. That knowledge lingers with them, making you unforgettable, not simply because of attraction or fascination, but because you wield the rare power of recognition, and that type of exposure makes you impossible to dislodge. Seventhly, they discovered that you hold keys to doors they haven't yet unlocked. They've come to understand that you carry keys to doors they haven't opened yet, and that revelation fundamentally shifted their perspective. The psychic didn't merely depict you as someone significant. They portrayed you as someone who possesses access, someone who carries something they lack, but desperately require. This wasn't about romance in the conventional sense. It wasn't about sweet words, fleeting excitement, or superficial passion. It was about personal growth. The reading revealed that you are intertwined with aspects of their life they've been barred from for years, perhaps even for lifetimes. This truth unsettled them because it meant their progress is not entirely self-determined. They realized there are areas of growth, healing, and purpose they simply cannot access without you. You hold the frequency, the wisdom, the presence, or the energy that unlocks doors they've been attempting to open but never been able to. Perhaps it's emotional vulnerability they've been avoiding, perhaps it's clarity regarding their true purpose, or perhaps it's the courage to confront shadows they've long suppressed. But whatever those unopened doors represent, the psychic confirmed that you hold the keys. That knowledge alters their perception of you entirely. You cease to be just another what if in their mind. Now you've become the hinge upon which future chapters turn. They are unable to shake the thought of you because your presence doesn't simply stir their heart, it stirs their destiny. To ignore you would mean to remain confined to cycles of limitation. To acknowledge you would mean to step into realms they've secretly yearned for but never accessed. That is why you have become unforgettable, and the haunting aspect is this. Once someone recognizes that you hold the keys, they cannot unlearn it. They can't revert to pretending you were ordinary or replaceable. Every time they experience that familiar stagnation, every time they encounter the same obstacle, your name resonates in their mind as the missing element. It is no longer about mere attraction. It is about necessity. You are the access point to doors they didn't even know they were waiting to open, and that is why you've become the constant thought in their day, the restless presence in their night. You've become the key they cannot afford to lose. Eighthly, the reading revealed that losing you would negatively impact their overall journey. The psychic revealed something that sent a chill through them, the truth that losing you would rewrite their positive path. Until that moment, they may have thought of you as important, meaningful, perhaps even unforgettable, but the reading made it clear. Your connection is not something they can mishandle without facing serious implications. You are intertwined with their journey in such a way that their actions with regard to you will greatly affect their overall well-being. The stakes are not just emotional, they are spiritual. This unsettled them deeply because it meant their actions toward you have significance far beyond hurt feelings or broken trust. The psychic laid it bare. If they dishonor this connection, they are not just wounding you. They are negatively affecting their entire course of life. That truth hit them hard because it reframed their choices. This isn't about whether they like you or not. It's about whether they choose fulfillment or suffering. They realized that mistreating you wouldn't just close the chapter, it would make a mark on them forever. The effects of their actions and choices would be very difficult to bear in the future. Therefore, they have to be very careful. They are not just dealing with an ordinary situation, they are choosing the path of destiny. The reading made them see that walking away from you or treating you carelessly isn't freedom. It's going to greatly affect their life later on, and that thought terrified them. Because once someone is made aware of the weight of a bond, the consequences of choices will be very dangerous. Now, you're not just in their mind because of desire. You're in their mind because of fear and awareness. They can't shake the thought of you because they know their treatment of you holds the power to bless or curse the very fabric of their future. Every action, every word, every decision connected to you suddenly feels heavier, more significant. The psychic handed them the truth that their destiny is tied to how they handle this connection, and now they can't unhear it. That's why you linger in their thoughts day and night. You've become more than a person. You've become a life-changing choice. Ninthly, they realized you already influenced their life without trying. They realized with a kind of unsettling clarity that you already influenced their life without even trying. This was not something they could brush off as coincidence anymore. The psychic made it undeniable. Even without constant interaction, even without your direct involvement, your presence has been reshaping the way they move through life. Their dreams, their moods, their sudden shifts in perspective. These are not random happenings. They are the ripple effects of the connection their soul has with yours. This truth hit them like a confession they didn't want to make out loud. They noticed how their decisions have started bending in your direction, how their emotions carry echoes of you, and how even in silence you are speaking into their life. That's what shook them. It means you don't need to chase, persuade, or demand anything. You exist, and that existence alone shifts their reality. The psychic showed them that influence doesn't always come with effort. Sometimes it comes with essence. Your energy is not passive. It's active, it's living, it's connected. They realize that when they dream of you, it's not just their subconscious at play, it's their spirit responding to your frequency. So to wrap it all up, what we've explored tonight is the profound, often unsettling, but ultimately beautiful reality of being deeply and undeniably connected to another soul. It's about understanding that sometimes when someone can't get you out of their head, it's not just a fleeting infatuation, but a sign of something far deeper. A missing piece, an unfinished lesson, a destined path illuminated by your very presence. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Have you ever experienced anything similar? Maybe you've been the one unable to stop thinking about someone, or perhaps you've felt that magnetic pull from another person. Share your stories, your questions, your insights in the comments below. Let's create a space for open and honest conversation. And if this resonated with you, if you found any glimmer of truth or understanding in what we discussed, be sure to subscribe. I'm planning on diving into more topics like this, exploring the hidden connections that shape our lives and the powerful forces that guide us. Don't miss out on the next exploration. Welcome, the chosen ones. Sometimes a single act isn't just a game changer, it's a paradigm shift that alters the very fabric of perception. Did you know that the human brain registers negative disruption with an intensity nearly 5 times greater than it does positive surprise? What you unleashed wasn't just observed. It etched itself into the recesses of their minds, a lasting testament to your power. You didn't merely ripple the waters, you dropped an earthquake into their carefully constructed reality, leaving tremors that reverberate with the stark reminder that you will never be viewed the same. They are forced to relive it. The gaze, the timing, the flawless execution, it replays in their heads like a scene from a movie they can't stop watching. And here's the fascinating paradox. They were so utterly convinced they had you perfectly mapped out, confined to a predictable, safe, and manageable role. But you didn't simply step outside the confines of their expectations. You shattered them with such force that their ego struggles to piece it back together. At this moment, you're residing rent-free in their thoughts. Not in some forgotten corner, but in the premier suite with an unobstructed panorama of their deepest insecurities and without so much as a down payment. What you enacted was not arbitrary. It was the kind of decisive action that reconfigures the energy landscape, rewrites narratives, and compels people to confront both you and themselves in a way that defies erasure. And that's the very reason they are captivated by you, because they know in their core that life will never be the same after what you did. First, you obliterated a pattern they were reliant upon. They believed they possessed an intricate map of your being, outlining familiar routes, well-defined markers, and anticipated stopping points. Perhaps for years, even your entire existence, they held an unwavering confidence in their understanding of how you would navigate various situations. If they exerted pressure, you would retreat. If they disregarded you, you would quietly absorb it. If they sought to manipulate outcomes, you would contort yourself to maintain harmony. This predictability was not merely reassuring for them. It constituted a hidden advantage they leveraged over you. They built their entire strategy on the assumption that you would never disrupt the established order. And then you did not merely tweak the pattern. You shattered it into fragments. You performed an action that completely defied their mental script for you. The very essence of broken patterns lies in their ability to generate mental pandemonium. People are loath to admit it, but much of their confidence stems from the belief that they can anticipate the actions of others. You decimated that safety net, and now they find themselves endlessly revisiting the moment, attempting to decipher when you resolve to rewrite the rules. The truly unsettling aspect for them is not solely the action you took, but the fact that you did so without seeking external validation. There was no preamble, no incremental escalation they could discern, no chance for them to brace themselves. One moment you were operating in accordance with the familiar rhythm they counted on. The next, you were engaging in behavior so divergent from that rhythm that they felt as though they had been sleepwalking. Their shock isn't merely directed at you, it's compounded by embarrassment at their failure to foresee it. The power dynamic underwent an immediate transformation. Before, they may have perceived themselves as holding the upper hand, possessing the ability to predict and thereby manipulate the space between you. But once you disrupted the pattern, you introduced uncertainty. And uncertainty in the minds of those who believed they understood you is a dangerous and destabilizing force. Now they exhibit greater caution and hesitation even in minor interactions because they are uncertain if you will take another unexpected step. They will never openly concede this, but what you did compelled them to acknowledge that they never truly knew you at all. This realization lingers. It's not merely the action itself. It's the unsettling recognition that every version of you they previously believed in might have been a carefully constructed illusion. And that truth is something they will continue to ponder long after the moment has faded. Second, you revealed a facet of yourself that defies recontainment. There are defining moments when someone unveils a dimension of their being that fundamentally alters how they are perceived. That's precisely what transpired with you. You showcased a version of yourself that cannot be unseen, and the gravity of that revelation continues to weigh heavily on their minds. This wasn't a superficial alteration or a fleeting display of audacity. It was a comprehensive unveiling of a part of you that had existed all along, concealed beneath layers of patience, restraint, and the generous extension of the benefit of the doubt. With that layer now peeled away, the familiar version of you they were accustomed to engaging with has vanished. What unsettles them is the palpable sense of permanence. You didn't simply have a passing moment. You conveyed, whether explicitly or implicitly, that this is the authentic you now, a being sharper, stronger, and far less tolerant of the things you once endured. They are unable to confine you back into the box they had constructed for you because that box no longer exists. And the fact that you underwent this transformation without their input or control leaves them profoundly uneasy. For those who tailored their interactions with you based on your former self, this is a complete reset they did not authorize. They must now approach you with greater care, weigh their words more deliberately, and reevaluate their approach to interacting with you. Every conversation, every encounter moving forward is filtered through the lens of what they have now witnessed. It's not paranoia on their part. It's an acknowledgement that the balance of power has shifted in irreversible ways. What truly resonates with them is the ease with which you embraced this shift. You didn't force it, you didn't over-explain it. You simply presented yourself as the more genuine, unfiltered version of yourself. And there's an inherent power in authenticity that leaves a more lasting impression than anything else. They cannot reassure themselves by dismissing it as a mere act because deep down they recognize its genuineness. Now, whenever they contemplate you, this newer, stronger version is the only image that surfaces. They may yearn for the old you, the one they could predict or influence, but they understand that there is no return. And that understanding is what keeps their thoughts fixated on you as they grapple with how to interact with a version of you they cannot control. Third, you forced them to confront their own vulnerabilities. What you executed didn't just leave an impression. It exposed a truth they were unprepared to face. You didn't merely act with boldness. You exposed the inherent fragility of their own being. People navigate the world adorned with layers of self-assurance, authority, and control. But much of that is a carefully curated facade. When you acted with such force, it stripped away that veneer, revealing a foundation far more precarious than they would ever acknowledge. They want to believe they are invincible, that nothing can truly unsettle them, but your actions resonated in a way that made them question the depth of their confidence. It's one thing to hear of strength or resilience. It's another to stand in its presence and witness its manifestation. And that's precisely what you provided. You offered them a palpable, undeniable example of a strength that does not waver, prompting them to question their own fortitude. They likely anticipated hesitation, collapse, or a cautious retreat into safety, as most people do when subjected to intense pressure. Instead, you navigated the situation with a clarity and decisiveness they did not believe you possessed. That's the genesis of the shock. It wasn't just the action you took. It was the fact that you did so without exhibiting any signs of fear. They were suddenly confronted with the unsettling possibility that they might not have been able to handle the situation in the same manner. This is the element that continues to linger for them. Each time they revisit the situation, they find themselves drawing comparisons between themselves and you. And in that introspective comparison, they consistently fall short. That's a difficult pill for anyone's ego to swallow, especially if they have always perceived themselves as strong or in control. The truth is, you didn't just survive an ordeal. You navigated it with a composure that shattered their illusions about themselves. It's not that they harbor animosity toward you because of it. It's that they cannot escape the mirror you held up to them in that moment. They saw the fissures in their own armor, and now they are acutely aware of them. That awareness is slow to dissipate, and it's the reason you continue to occupy their thoughts. You didn't merely make a move, you revealed a truth they cannot forget. Fourth, you demonstrated the idleness of their assumptions. They were under the impression that they had you all figured out, and the worst part is they didn't even invest the effort to truly see you. Their perception of you was based on hasty judgments, half-heard narratives, and fragmented glimpses of yourself that you inadvertently revealed in their presence. They pieced together a shallow profile in their minds and treated it as immutable fact. To them, there was no need to delve deeper. They had already predetermined your limitations, your strengths, and your weaknesses. That's the pitfall of lazy assumptions. They allow people to believe in their correctness without ever testing their premise. Then you went and did something that didn't merely nudge their perception, it shattered it into fragments. In that instant, everything they believed to be true about you was proven wrong, and not in a subtle way. The disparity between their assumptions and the reality you presented was so vast that it propelled them into mental overdrive. Now they are trapped, reliving the moment, trying to ascertain where they erred and how they overlooked so much about you. For some, the embarrassment outweighs the shock. It's humbling to acknowledge that you were wrong about someone, especially when you never extended them the benefit of the doubt in the first place. You have made them aware that they weren't merely wrong, they were careless, their judgment of you. And when that kind of truth hits, it lingers. They cannot return to the comfort of their former opinion because you have made it impossible to sustain that belief. What unsettles them most is knowing this wasn't a one-time occurrence. You didn't merely shatter their assumptions. You established a precedent that you are far more complex, capable, and unpredictable than they gave you credit for. That means they can no longer rely on the simplified version of you they carried in their minds. From now on, every interaction will carry the weight of that realization, the awareness that there's more to you than meets the eye, and that they have already underestimated you once. That's why it continues to replay in their minds. You didn't just surprise them. You forced them to acknowledge that they never truly knew you at all. And once someone realizes that they can't look at you or themselves the same way again. Fifth, you shifted the power dynamic without seeking permission. Power is something most people believe must be granted, that you must be invited to occupy space, speak with authority, or assume leadership. They assume there's a procedure, a discussion, or some form of approval before that shift can occur. But you didn't await permission. You didn't ask anyone if it was acceptable. You simply acted in a way that made it clear that you were no longer playing a supporting role in your environment, and just like that, the balance shifted. The distinction between seizing power and being granted power is immense. When you seize it through decisive action, there's no opportunity for others to dictate the terms or impose limitations. That's what makes it so unsettling for them. They didn't have the luxury of easing into this change. They didn't get to shape it, and they certainly didn't get to prepare for it. One moment they were operating in an environment where they felt in control, and the next they were reacting to you rather than the other way around. That realization stings. It compels them to acknowledge that whatever authority they believed they held over you was only as strong as your willingness to comply. The moment you ceased playing by their rules, the structure they were relying on crumbled. And because this wasn't accomplished through confrontation alone, but through undeniable action, they cannot dismiss it. The shift didn't stem from words, it came from proof. Now they are trapped in a loop, replaying the precise moment they sensed that change. It's not just about what you did, it's about how it made them feel, that sudden awareness that they were no longer the center of control. Power dynamics are deeply psychological, and once the hierarchy shifts in someone's mind, it's almost impossible to reverse it. The most unsettling aspect for them is knowing it wasn't a stroke of luck. You acted from a place of conviction, not desperation, which means you can replicate it. They can't predict when, they can't prevent it, and they can't undo the fact that everyone in that environment now perceives you differently. That's why they can't let it go, because the power shift wasn't confined to the moment. It's permanent. Sixth, you made their covert competitions glaringly obvious. Some people will never openly admit that they perceive you as a competitor, but you can sense it in the subtle ways they behave around you. The veiled remarks, the need to subtly one-up you, the inexplicable tension when you achieve something. For them, it has been a silent, private game, one where they secretly tallied points, confident they were ahead or at least close enough to maintain a sense of control. Then you executed an action that exposed that entire unspoken game to the light. You didn't merely win a round, you took a step that made it clear that they were never truly in your league to begin with. The gap between you and them became undeniable in that moment, and what burns the most is that you weren't even participating in their game in the first place. That's the source of the humiliation they can't shake, realizing that they have been expending energy competing with someone who didn't even acknowledge the race. You weren't observing their moves. You weren't pursuing the same goals they were, and you certainly weren't comparing yourself to them. You were simply progressing in your own direction, and yet your progress has overshadowed their efforts without any conscious effort on your part. When someone engages in covert competition, their self-esteem is contingent on the belief that they are close to matching or surpassing you. But when you establish such a clear and undeniable distance, that pride suffers a direct hit. It's akin to a private scoreboard they have been updating for years, suddenly illuminating with the truth, and the truth is that they have been losing badly. Now every time they think about you, it's not just about what you did, it's about what it exposed. You revealed the game they were playing, and once a hidden competition becomes visible, it's impossible to deny its existence. They are left with the discomfort of knowing that they have been competing in secret and losing in public without anyone but themselves to blame. The irony is, you didn't intend to embarrass them. You simply made a move that was authentic to you. And in doing so, you forced them to confront the reality of their current standing. And now that the truth is out, it's a truth they will continue to stumble over every time your name is mentioned. Seventh, you proved that the fear of loss does not dictate your actions. Most people are unaware of the extent to which their lives are governed by fear until they encounter someone living without it. They will mask it with euphemisms such as being responsible or thinking things through. But beneath the surface, the truth is simple. They are afraid of losing something. It might be their reputation, their comfort, their financial security, or even the approval of those around them. That fear dictates their choices to a degree they will never admit. Then you emerged and made a decision that violated that unspoken rule. You didn't cling to something merely because it was familiar, safe, or expected. You were willing to release it not recklessly, but with a full understanding of the implications because it no longer aligned with your truth. That's not a move most people can even fathom making, and it shakes them to their core. What unsettles them isn't just what you relinquished, but the manner in which you did so. There was no pleading, no desperate attempt to hold on, no compromise of your principles for the sake of maintaining comfort. You demonstrated that your integrity, your peace, and your authenticity outweigh the fear of loss. That kind of mindset poses a threat to those who have structured their lives around preserving what they possess at any cost. When they witness someone like you acting from that place of freedom, it prompts them to question their own lives. If you can walk away from something they themselves are terrified to lose, then perhaps they are the ones trapped, not you. That realization is uncomfortable because it implies that the safety they are clinging to isn't strength. It's a cage. And here's the element: they will never openly admit they admire it. Even if it frightens them deep down, they yearn to operate with the same level of self-trust. But instead of acknowledging it, they fixate on you. They replay the decision, attempting to understand how you found the courage they can't seem to access. That's why you remain in their thoughts. You didn't merely make a bold move. You proved that the fear of loss holds no dominion over you. And for those who are ruled by that fear, there's nothing more intimidating than someone who has already mastered the art of letting go. Eighth, you eliminated their favorite justification. Most people rely on excuses to safeguard their self-image. They tell themselves stories such as, "If only I had the time," or "If the circumstances were different, I could have done it too." Those stories allow them to feel capable without ever forcing them to take action. Excuses serve as a shield, and for many it's easier to cling to the shield than to confront the reality of effort, risk, or discomfort. Then you stepped into the very same conditions they claim are insurmountable and flourished. You didn't await perfect alignment of circumstances. You didn't demand ideal timing, and you didn't rely on others to make it easier. You utilized what you had in the very same context they decry, and you made it succeed. That's a dose of reality that cuts deeper than criticism. It strips away the very thing they have been clinging to feel justified. Now they are caught in a mental loop. Their excuse, the one they have repeated to themselves ad nauseum to avoid taking action, holds no weight in the face of your accomplishment. It's not merely inconvenient for them, it's humiliating in the quietest, most personal way. They can't say, "I could have done it too," because deep down they know you have proven otherwise. The frustrating part for them is that you didn't engage in anything flashy or extreme. You simply operated effectively within the limitations they believed would stymie anyone. That's the sting, the recognition that it wasn't luck, it wasn't cheating, and it wasn't extraordinary circumstances. You succeeded where they imagined they would have failed, and that demolishes the narrative they have been comfortable telling themselves. From now on, whenever they reflect on their own potential, your action serves as the benchmark they can't disregard. They are compelled to acknowledge that success doesn't necessitate perfect conditions, only decisive action and unwavering commitment. And that acknowledgement is uncomfortable because it throws into stark relief how much of their life has been dictated by excuses rather than effort. You didn't just accomplish something remarkable, you removed the safety net of their self-justifications. That's why they can't stop thinking about you. You proved a truth they can't refute. Limitations are often self-imposed, and anyone willing to act within them can leave those who hesitate behind. Ninth, you exposed how reliant they were on your predictability. For a long time, people believed they knew exactly how you would respond in any given situation. That assumption provided them with a sense of power, the idea that if they could predict your actions, they could steer outcomes, manage reactions, and maintain control. They depended on your patterns, your habits, your tendencies. Your predictability became a hidden anchor they clung to without even recognizing it. Then you did something that completely defied their expectations. You acted in a manner that shattered the rhythm they had grown accustomed to. Every forecast they had made about you, every assumption they had used to feel secure, suddenly became worthless. The rules they thought applied no longer existed, and that impacted them more profoundly than any direct confrontation could have. The unsettling truth they are left with is simple. They cannot anticipate you. And if they cannot anticipate you, they cannot control you. That's a terrifying realization for someone who has built their confidence on knowing your boundaries, predicting your choices, or assuming they could manipulate situations to their advantage. Suddenly, the stability they counted on has vanished, and there's no guidebook to replace it. What makes it linger even more is that you didn't announce it or make a spectacle of it. You just acted according to your own understanding, your own timing, and your own priorities. That subtlety makes the unpredictability permanent. They can't dismiss it as a fluke, because every time they try to gauge you again, you demonstrate that your actions are independent of their expectations. Now every interaction with you carries a subtle tension for them. They have to pause, reconsider, and adjust constantly, because the old shortcuts, the assumptions, the patterns, the predictable you no longer apply. So there you have it. The power of disrupting expectations isn't about being intentionally disruptive. It's about authentically stepping into your own power and acting in alignment with your truth. It's about showing up as the full, unfiltered version of yourself, even when it rattles the cages of others. It's a journey that not only transforms your own life, but also forces those around you to reevaluate their perceptions, assumptions, and even their own vulnerabilities. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this. Have you experienced something similar in your own life, either as the one shattering expectations or as someone who's had their world rocked by someone else? Leave a comment down below, share your story, ask a question, or just join the discussion. I'd love to hear from you. And if you found this insightful and want to explore more ideas about personal growth, authentic living, and breaking free from limiting beliefs, don't forget to subscribe. That way you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.